Yep.
Well, I have to tell you tonight, just in the last few minutes, NBC News has advanced this reporting. This is breaking news reported by Carol Lee at NBC News, who I think is going to be joining us by phone in just a moment. She reports this. A single hard copy of former National Security Advisor John Bolton's book was delivered last month to the White House for a national security review. What happened to the copy of the book is unknown to Bolton's team, but it appears copies of it were made. So he dropped off one. Somehow it multiplied inside the White House. Bolton's team submitted the book, quote, in good faith, and now feels that process was corrupted. Bolton doesn't intend to speak publicly about the Ukraine issue until questions about his potential testimony are resolved. That's important. If he were to testify, he plans to do so as a fact witness. Again, new reporting from Carol Lee at NBC News. Joining us now by phone is NBC News correspondent Carol. Time for you. Right? That he believes there has been replication, that he dropped off one hard copy, one paper copy of the book, and his team, Bolton's team, is saying that they believe it was photocopied, it was in order to circulate it more widely?
Basically, yes, they're saying that they gave a single copy of the manuscript to the White House for this very sort of routine review that anyone who's worked in administration with the kind of access that someone like John Bolton did would have to undergo if they were writing a book. It's a national security review. And given that the Bolton team says they had nothing to do with this leak of the contents of the book, which they're also not confirming or denying, it appears that there would have had to have been copies made of the book. Essentially, it's hard to get your head around the idea that you have one copy of a book and everyone's just passing it around, and then all of those people are going and talking to reporters about what they read in this one copy that they've all been sharing. So it suggests that there are multiple copies floating around, and from the Bolton team perspective, what they're saying is we gave them one copy. What they did with it, we don't know, but clearly it's gotten out there and it's not coming from us. They really want to distance themselves from the idea that he is somehow behind leaking this.
So, and to that last point, when they tell you that they submitted the book in good faith, they feel the process was corrupted, that's the contention from Bolton's team that they did everything right. They absolutely didn't leak it. The book and the descriptions of the content of the book aren't coming from them. It must have come from the White House. That's the picture they're painting.
That's right. That's basically what they're saying. That's not from them. And, you know, that they were approaching this from a perspective of this is what you have to do when you write a book like this. Obviously, this book is a lightning rod for a whole host of other reasons. It's not just, some staffer writing a book that needs to get a review on some mundane national security topics. But it is a very routine process that anyone who's written a book and worked in a White House or in an administration would know what it's like. And what they're saying, or from their point of view, that somehow got off the rails, and this is not how that process was supposed to go. He doesn't intend to speak publicly about this issue until the questions about whether or not he can deliver testimony in the Senate trial are resolved, and that he wasn't. Then, from their perspective, he wasn't leaking any of this. So it's not them, according to them.
And Carol, the point that you also make in your reporting tonight that if he were to testify, he plans to do so as a fact witness.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the significance of that and what exactly that means in this context?
Well, that's what concerns people around President Trump, because, Bolton's danger, if you talk to anyone who is close to the president and supported the president, well, they'll tell you that his danger is in the fact that he comes with his Republican background. He's got a lot of credibility. And if he were to go in there and just say what he knows a lot. And he knows a lot of facts. And even if they can dispute the facts or argue that the facts are not as he outlines them, his coming at this from just being a fact-based witness, not somebody with an agenda, is something that could be very threatening to the president, just because, for the simple fact that we all watched all of the administration officials who testified in the House hearings and that were fact witnesses. And sometimes when you just say it out loud, it can make the president look really bad. And that's what people around the president are very concerned about.
And Carol, just one last point on this. You mentioned explicitly that he's not planning on speaking publicly about the Ukraine issue until questions about his potential testimony are resolved. That means I should not be so hopeful in calling him and asking him for an interview. Not that I ever
I don't think he's going to be sitting down with you anytime soon. Maybe after his book is out.
Yeah.
But no, he's
we'll cross that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But so that, I mean, he's essentially saying, listen, I'm not going to talk in another venue other than the trial and provided. But is it clear to you why he would say yes to a subpoena from the Senate at this point, but he would not voluntarily agree to testify to the House? I mean, that's both an interesting question in terms of what he's done so far, and also an interesting question about whether he might testify to the House if the Senate indeed doesn't call him.
My understanding is that he wanted to. John Bolton is this kind of. He has a lot of views about how presidential authority should be exercised, and he believes a lot in that the president and has the right to invoke executive privilege in certain circumstances and other things. He has a long history of that, and that's why for him, he wanted a subpoena if he was going to testify in House, but not just a subpoena, then for a court to decide, to basically decide whether he should listen to the White House or Congress. That changed with the Senate, and you could argue the Senate's a Republican venue. It's not run by Adam Schiff. It's overseen by Justice Roberts, and I think the idea that Justice Roberts is overseeing it is part of what Bolton has a lot of respect for him and any process that he would run. But clearly he also, I mean, it's right there in every statement from his lawyer, from others, that he really just has a story he wants to tell. He saw a lot. And, he is someone who clearly did, the House decided not to move forward with that. And I think that I'd be curious to see whether he contested any attempt by the House now to go back and have a do-over. But the Senate process is one that he clearly feels more comfortable in. I don't think it's, you can't rule out that it's because it's being run by Republicans.
Carol Lee, NBC News correspondent.